The Ask Mike Reinold Show. Helping people feel better, move better, and perform better. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode. We have a really impressive episode for you guys today that I'm super excited about. Here at Champion up in Boston, we treat a ton of baseball players, we treat a ton of Tommy John injuries, and for whatever reason at this moment we have a bunch of those guys in right now rehabbing. So we thought it would be extremely beneficial for them to kind of share some of their story and some of the things that are going on with them and the injury process, to maybe help some of the youth, the high school, the college kids understand a little bit more about the process and kind of hear it from the pro perspective. So we got a great group here. Lenny Macrina here as usual. Lenny's probably one of the, I don't know if there's more people in the world that have done more Tommy Johns than Lenny, myself, and Kevin Wilk in Alabama. So probably he's seen well over 1,000 Tommy Johns in his lifetime. So definitely have Lenny's perspective, which is awesome. We have Anthony Mayo on the table with Lenny right now, getting a stretch. He's got a big golf round later, so he might not be here all episode. But Anthony is a professional baseball player coming back from shoulder surgery, but again, dealing with an injury rehab process. Jamil Moquette here is with the Baltimore Orioles, an outfielder. He's about 2 months post-op. 2 months post-op Tommy John surgery. Andrew Chisholm in the background, high school catcher here, shoulder injury, but whatever. Jump in if you want to say anything, Chiz. He's welcome. Right? That's easy. Dennis Torres, pitcher from the Baltimore Orioles organization, about 5 weeks.
5 weeks out.
5 weeks post-op Tommy John. We'll get a special guest appearance from Tim Collins with the Royals. He's coming in a little bit. He's late, so just so everybody's on the same page, he's late. So, but Tim Collins is coming in a little bit. Hopefully, he'll join the episode. John Morris, pitching coach here in Boston at our facility at the Farm Baseball Academy and Champion up here in Boston. So works with a ton of youth players. But heck, I wonder if we knew your career innings pitched personally.
It's a lot.
It's probably a lot. So John's elderly now. At this point, he's what, 30?
Yep.
So he's 30 in baseball terms. So that's elderly. But sorry guys. Dennis is like, hey, I'm 30. But John's had a long career and you've been pitching your whole 20s, right? Mm-hmm. So we've been pitching in some of the leagues up here in Boston in the Yawkey League. What's your record again? Most wins?
Yeah.
Most wins in Yawkey League history, which is pretty impressive. So coaches a bunch of youth from 10U all the way up to 18U, but also an established pitcher himself. So anyway, so that's the crew. I don't think you want to hear from me anymore. Let's hear from these guys. So I guess why don't we start maybe Dennis? Dennis is a pitcher. Just tell us your story. Like what happened? Like what happened with your elbow? How'd you get to Tommy John? Tell me about it.
Well, it all started back in 2012. I was back at UMass my junior season, and previous year I had thrown 45 innings. The next year I became a starter, and I actually worked my way up to 105 pitches before I ended up getting drafted. And towards the end of the year that season, my elbow started feeling a little funky. There was no pain, just kind of took me a little longer to kind of warm up. Once I got going, I felt fine. I ended up getting drafted. My first pro game, I partially tear my ligament. At the moment, I felt fine. Yeah. I kept pitching. I felt great. I guess I felt great. I woke up the next morning and it was awful pain in my elbow. I come out, a couple weeks later to find out I partially tore my UCL. So that was definitely something that was new to me at the moment.
Yeah. How many years ago was that?
That was in 2012, so that was 4 years ago.
And did you, up to that, were you tight? Like, did you feel anything in your forearm, like any tightness, like anything, or it was just,
Up to that, I felt perfectly fine. If I was tight or sore, it was definitely all in my bicep. Okay. I'm kind of overthrowing, so to speak, but never in my elbow. That's why I kind of never paid mind to it. Right. So that kind of caught me off guard. The only thing I can, attest to the injury might be the workload from going 45 innings the previous year to 100 plus the following year with no jump. Really change in my routine. Yeah. My warm-up routine, prior to the season was pretty much the same as it was the year before. And in college you never know what role you're going to take at the beginning of the season. And when your name is called, you always want to pitch. That was a big year for me. The draft was coming up. There was a little buzz, and whenever my name was called, I wanted to pitch. I kind of put pain. I don't say pain or awkwardness aside when the Call of Duty arose.
Well, especially when as a pro, right? I mean, once you get to the professional levels, that's your job.
Exactly.
Yes, there's a lot of pressure. In college, there's pressure. You don't want to let your teammates down. You don't want to let your coach down. But also, your future. You want to put yourself in that position to get some exposure and stuff. So, so crazy. All right. So then, what happened from there? What'd you do? Did you try to rehab it?
So that was the protocol to rehab. So I took the rest of that year off, an extensive. I didn't throw for close to 6 months.
Wow, which is
I got hurt.
Which is long, right?
I got hurt in June. I didn't start throwing until December.
So, Len, in your experience from Dr. Andrews' clinic, a kid comes down to Dr. Andrews and he's in Dennis's position. What's the typical? How many weeks does he not throw? That type of thing.
Yeah, depends on the situation, but typically it's a 6 to 8 week. Shut it down. Work on what's up, Tim? Hey, welcome.
Tim Collins, everybody, pitcher with the Kansas City Royals. Tim, another Tommy John. How many weeks are we now?
6.
6 weeks after Tommy John revision. We'll get to that, right? So we've got some stories, but sorry, Len.
The typical 6 to 8 week of rest. So you going 6 months is tremendous.
Yeah.
I kind of like that better than some of what we're doing now. I wish we could go a little longer, but there's always time constraints. And
the good thing about it, I had time.
Yes.
My season was done at that point.
And if kids have time, we like that longer time. But the 6 to 8 week is, I think, a minimum that we try to prescribe. I think that's a good chance to let everything heal down, get a little stronger, get the tissue to calm down.
Yeah.
Well, and obviously it didn't work because down the road you needed surgery. It was kind of interesting with the perspective of some people, we're talking 6 to 8, but you got 6 months. So really the question is, not is that too long, but were you delaying the inevitable to an extent? Sometimes we want you to throw it 6 to 8 weeks to just test it out to see, do you really need surgery or not? Because oftentimes you do. Right, so which is kind of like Jamil a little bit, right? So Jamil, you hurt yourself last summer, right?
Last summer, yeah, early April. Knowing that it's still cold up in Northeast in the low A ball, and it was about 20 games into the season. Around the 8th inning, I'm playing right field. Guy around the second base, the ball hit to me, ground ball in right field. I come up throwing. I felt something weird in my elbow after that throw, but as I went throwing, I knew myself that my front shoulder opened up more faster than my elbow, and then that's when I pretty knew that something was up with my elbow.
What would you feel? Did you feel like a pop or anything?
I felt big numbness all through my forearm and bicep and fingers.
Okay.
But it was cold that day.
Did you feel a pop?
I didn't.
Did you feel a pop, Tim?
Really, it was more of like a stabbing pain.
Okay, all right.
Exactly what I
So
thought, yes.
So some people pop though, right? I mean, we see kids before surgery all the time. But I think that's a misnomer. That's interesting. Like a pop, like your Tommy John, your UCL and your elbow is not like your ACL and your knee. Your ACL and your knee, you're skiing and it just pops, right? The thing just goes, it's very obvious. UCL, it just wears down a lot until you get to a point where maybe you had a little bit of a partial tear, but most people's aren't blown in half like an ACL. Some people's are, but most people it gets a partial tear, which can create some of that stabbing pain. Sometimes your ulnar nerve gets involved, which can create your arm going numb in that position there, because they're all kind of brothers and sisters, I guess, all these different symptoms. So interesting. So all right, so you took a bunch of time off, got back into throwing, and then how long did you throw until you had surgery? How long did you pitch?
So that was back in 2013, so you can say 3 years.
Okay.
3 years, and at first, it was different. Like I said, 6 months off, I began to throw, and I felt great. It was a slow and steady progression. I felt great, no symptoms. Once I got off the bump and started kind of trying to air it out and put a little behind it, I felt stiff. There was no pain, but I felt stiff. This was weird for me. Stiff in the forearm, stiff in the elbow region.
Yeah, did you feel it more in the forearm or more like on the inside of your elbow?
More in the forearm.
Okay, good.
More in the forearm, and they thought it was maybe flexor mass.
Yeah.
So on and so forth.
Right.
But no pain.
Which it probably was, and what was probably happening is your flexor mass was holding on for dear life because your ligament wasn't working. So your flexor mass had to work twice as hard to stabilize your elbow. It's interesting. Okay.
So throughout that progression, I had to make sure that I was extra loose before I threw.
Okay.
I'd get some grass and technique done before I threw.
Nice
And,
trademark. I like that. So instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization.
Classic. And, starting off was where I felt real tight, but once I got through that phase, and trainers would tell me, that was kind of basically breaking down the scar tissue.
Right.
So, come April, May, June, I felt great. I really had a good season, 13 and 14. Mm-hmm. And same thing 14. The following season, at the beginning of the season, I kind of felt a little tight, but it was maybe a quicker transition to feeling good again.
Yeah.
And
any issues with command or velocity?
No.
Okay.
My velocity
right,
actually jumped.
So you made it. You did well.
14, I was sitting 3 to 5.
That's good.
Which was pretty good for me. I was usually low 9, maybe 93, but I was sitting at some points throughout June and July 93, 95, and I was like, wow, and I felt great. But with that being said, I had to make sure that I was still doing all my arm care. I took that very seriously.
Right.
Because at any given point, it could go.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure I could play, an extra week, an extra month, the entire season.
Yeah.
That was my thought process, just to get through, as much as I possibly could. Because at any given point, I was told by him, by her that it was, like you said, delaying the inevitable.
Yeah. And so that any given point was this year.
At this year.
Right. So what happened then? Like, was that one pitch? Was that?
So
could you
this
tell?
year was a little different for me. I played winter ball.
Yeah.
I played winter ball in Puerto Rico for 2 months, and usually after a season, I'll take 2 to 3 months to just kind of relax. From throwing at least.
Right.
I'll take a month from no baseball activity, then I'll start ramping up my lifting, my stretching, my yoga, and come Thanksgiving, I start throwing. That wasn't the case playing winter ball, so that was a little tough for me. I started playing winter ball late October.
Right.
So I took a month off after the season, started throwing again, got ready for winter ball, and I didn't feel tight. I didn't feel loose. I would throw off the mound. I just felt like I had nothing behind it, but no pain.
Right.
No pain. So I said, hey, no pain, which is good. I was still doing all my extra arm care. Played winter ball. Took about 2 weeks off, and then got ready for the season. And same concept. Once I was in spring training, the ball just wasn't coming out. I was getting a little nervous at this point because usually, I usually feel good this time of the year, and it just wasn't coming out. No pain, nothing. It just wasn't coming out. I was sitting maybe 90, 91. I'd hit 92 by really, really airing it out.
Right.
And that's never the case for me.
So
I'm not a
velo
really max
drop, too.
effort. I'm not a max effort pitcher. Usually it just comes out. I have a nice loose arm, and that wasn't the case. So that was kind of a red flag in the back of my mind.
Sure.
But then again, I can't let that stop me from, the task at hand.
Right.
And like I said, it was only a matter of time. And the first game this year, it was cold. It was real cold. We're up in Bowie. It was 9, 10 at night. It was 35, 40 degrees. It was cold out. It was pretty cold.
That's not fun.
I had warmed up previously early in the game, sat down, got up again. I actually went into the game. About 10 pitches in, I threw a curveball. I actually threw a curveball behind the hitter.
Oh, wow.
And I felt, like...
Same thing, the stab thing?
The stab. I felt like, I was pulling and it couldn't take no more.
Yeah.
It was kind of a stab, exactly.
Super interesting. Obviously, we can't go back in time. We can't regret or anything like that. But it's super interesting because I feel like a lot of youth in the wintertime now are putting all their eggs in throwing. So if you think of what are the ways to prepare yourself for a season, there's throwing, obviously, which is good. There's training. There's arm care program. There's recovery protocols and stuff like that. There's a lot of things you do to get ready for a season, right? What you did this winter was throw. That was what you did because of winter ball, and you got away from your training and all your arm care stuff, and it was interesting. So who knows if that's correlated? I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's fair to say it is.
I don't think I'll ever know, to be honest.
No,
it's not something I'm going to regret by any means.
But it's interesting. This winter was predominantly throwing and less prep work.
Yes.
Interesting. I don't know. We'll see. So Jamil, so you had how many weeks did you take off?
Oh, after I got the PRP shot.
Oh, that's right. So Jamil got a PRP. So you got that right away,
I got that 2 weeks after I got hurt.
Okay. So PRP injection in there, platelet-rich plasma injecting into the ligament area, trying to get it to put some blood and some healing tissue into that area, so that way his UCL could potentially heal. Yeah. So tell me about that. How did that feel itself? The injection?
The injection was bad.
Yeah, right. Painful, right?
It was painful. Because they took blood from my left arm, spun it in the plasma, and injected it right into the bone and wherever the UCLs is in there.
And they pepper it too.
And they move it around. And it felt
grody.
Really bad. It hurt.
Yeah.
And after that, my arm was really, really sore the next day. Couldn't really move it, extend it at all, none of that. But after that, they told me, okay, Jamil, we're gonna sit you no throwing, nothing at all after 6 to 8 weeks. And I flew down to Sarasota, our spring training facility, and rehabbed it there for 6 to 8 weeks. Did all the arm care stuff. So the 6 weeks mark come. First throw I threw, still pain. I mean, it's even I told the trainers like I still have pain there. It's like, all right, cool.
Cool. He said cool.
all right. You know, sat me down for another 2 weeks. 8 week marks, no pain, no nothing. I start throwing again. At the 8 week marks, and then I get up to like I say 90 feet. When I try to put some emphasis on my throw, I still felt that UCL ligament, like still feel that pain.
Your numbness tingling's gone at this time?
Yeah, it's gone. Numbness, no tingling, none of that stuff. But once I reached like that point up here, that's when I felt this right here like flared up on me.
So that was right at the 8 week mark too.
8 week marks,
felt
yeah.
That. And
I still felt
then
that.
what?
And then after that, they sat me down another 2 weeks.
Right.
And did a lot of flexor muscle. They said it was my flexor muscle now.
Right.
Because when the MRI thing, they
Same
checked
story.
that. They checked that, and then it was like I sprained it.
Right.
And
now your muscle, they're saying.
The muscle, now the muscle was like sprained. Like, all right, cool. So they did all that stuff. They did
You're taking this well. I like it.
They did all the treatment, the scab, all that crap, and I think I'm at 12 weeks now, and I'm back throwing again. I feel great. No pain, no strain on my muscles.
Nice.
On my forearm, none of that. And I progressed 90 feet, 120, 150 feet. I was up to 150 feet in August, so that's already like almost, let's see, May, June, almost 3 months already rehabbing and all that. So I felt great.
Yeah.
Before I came back home, trainers told me, all right, no throwing. I'm like, all right, cool, no throwing, none of that stuff. But I felt great when I left the season. When I came back home in the off season, I felt great. My arm feels like, wow, it feels good.
Yeah.
I was long tossing and everything, so no pain or nothing. So at this point, I'm thinking the PRP is gonna work. I mean, props to them, you know.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I would say that's a pretty common story. So PRPs are interesting, right? I like the 6 to 8 week mark to test if they're ready to throw, and it's very interesting. I would say most people, if you don't feel good at 6 to 8 weeks, I hate to say you should probably go ahead and just have the surgery, but it's probably inevitable that it's coming. And just in our experience, and we've seen a ton of these, I don't want you to rush into surgery, but if it's still bugging you at 6 to 8 weeks, I just think your chances just go down so much. So heck, you were close.
Yeah.
But Lenny, PRPs, I know like Dr. Andrews and those guys down in Alabama and Florida have been doing a good amount of PRPs over the years, and I think they talk like they had decent results. Do you remember any of their studies, or what's the percentage of PRPs that work?
Yeah, I think it depends. There's so many different variables, but I think it depends on what they're spinning down and what they're injecting. And the research is mixed that I've seen on PRP, but I think the fact that you're creating a blood response or a bleeding response in there by the needle and injecting the needle and the rest, I think is a good thing. I think it's a way for the tissue to have a healing capability. Again, I think it comes down to the actual spinning of the blood and what. Yeah,
lots of different techniques. But specifically with Andrews, though, did you see any good results? Do you see anybody that were successful? Do you guys have any teammates that were successful?
I personally didn't see many.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, if they had a PRP, what I saw,
I guess they wouldn't come back, and maybe you would never see them.
I would never see them.
So maybe that's
like
not
that.
fair.
So it's tough for me. I don't know if it's fair enough for me to judge that.
Did you ever get a PRP? No. Did you have any teammates that got one and were successful?
I had a couple that have had PRPs, but they weren't successful.
Yeah. So in my career, I've had one that was successful. One. And so many that weren't. So it's interesting. Hey, it's a good why not? Like, hey, let's do everything we can.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not against it, but just, people need to understand, I guess, that concept here. I mean, so out of us group, we haven't really, I guess, cumulatively, we've seen one successful. So it's kind of interesting. So
I think that's the last bit of hope to avoid surgery.
Yeah.
I've only seen one guy who's had it done. He had torn his lat.
Yeah.
And he went through a throwing program, and he got to a certain point where he's putting too much stress on that lat.
Right.
It just went.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of the injection is good. I just don't see I think it's good to a certain point. If it's very minor, a very minor tear or strain or anything like that, I think it could help, could benefit. But I think most guys that are having pain are already at a point where it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to need considerable amount of healing before you can actually be 100%, and then even, again, it might take a year and you're done.
Right.
So it's kind of like you said, you're delaying the inevitable. But like I said, I think that's just the last bit of hope, trying to avoid surgery, and it's something they can do, and it might be successful. So.
And I would say, too, I think very few people are ready to have Tommy John. They hurt their arm, they see it. Very few people are like, all right, I want surgery tomorrow. It happens, and maybe, contract-based stuff, there may be a reason. Right. Most people aren't mentally ready. They need that 6 to 8 week period, and then, I hate to say it doesn't work, but they almost need that to say, like, okay, all right, I did everything I could to put myself in there.
I think it also takes a good medical staff to sit you down and shoot you straight.
Yeah.
If they look at it and they're, on the line, and you have to make that decision, that's tough.
Right.
I think if you have a medical staff that's experienced and knows what they're looking at, and they can look at you and say, hey, this is done. You need surgery. There's no reason waiting. There's no reason rehabbing it. And I think, an experienced medical staff can notice that.
Right.
So, I've heard horror stories where guys rehab it, and it's like, just waited 3 months. You're adding 3 months to that rehab process that could have started already
for no reason,
and you're missing 3 months in a season is huge.
Right. Well, if you do this in June, rehab for 3 months, now you got another year. You just missed 2 seasons.
Exactly. You just missed 2 years, and
that's a big deal.
2 years in baseball is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you go from 24 to 26. Now you've got these 21-year-olds who are coming up now, and there goes your job.
See, there's a lot that goes into this. There's a lot of the back end business.
For
stuff.
me, it was the first time I tore it, it was it. Let's do it. I didn't want to wait.
Oh, so you didn't wait. You went right into it. Very good.
I tore it on the 11th.
Good.
I tore it on the 4th. I had surgery on the 11th.
Nice. All right. Good.
Why'd you wait a whole week?
Well, to be honest, swelling.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was swollen. So tell us about your first injury. What happened to you?
It was spring training. I had one minor arm issue.
Louder. I don't care about your posture.
I was gonna say
So Tim's got experience with the media. He's a very good, quiet talk. He's much louder in real life than this. So.
I'll scoot closer. I had one minor arm issue. Before that, I had a minor flexor strain, and I rehabbed that on 4 months in AAA.
Was that the year prior?
That was the year prior.
Okay.
And I rehabbed it, was great, came back, had no arm issues after that. Spent 3 months in AAA leading up to the end of the season. I got called back up in September, and still no arm issues, felt great. That spring training went in, felt great. First game, went out there, bullpen was good, felt good in the bullpen, came out to the mound, warmed up great. And probably about maybe 8 to 10 pitches in, I threw a curveball. Bam! I felt a grab. It was a sting, close to a stab. Yeah. And I threw about right on there.
How was the form at that time?
Form was fine.
Okay.
As I progressed in the inning, I was in the middle of an at bat. I had 2 outs. I'm thinking my elbow's gone. Let's just try to get this last out. If I don't, I'll call the trainers out.
See, there's a typical professional athlete's mentality.
So, I ended up finishing off the at bat. I walked him, and I threw about 10 extra pitches after I tore my elbow.
Right.
And the more I threw, the worse it got. It went from feeling the atomic bomb rub on my arm to a blowtorch on my elbow.
Right.
And my form was tight. It was almost as if I was pitching in the cold. I couldn't move my fingers. I couldn't grip the ball.
Wow.
It was tight all the way up. So I knew as soon as that at bat was over, that was it. I was done.
Wow. So there's some common themes here that I just wanted to pick up on, Eric. Everybody's had forearm involvement to extent. Now I've actually seen some other people that have talked that either you have a flexor strain at the beginning or a year before, or that's part of you feel the cramping. And so clearly related, these two.
Right.
So what we see a lot of times, I've actually had, I can count several, more than one handful of guys that felt their forearm tighten up at some point in the game or week, didn't say anything, tried to pitch through it, and then did it. So I'm always, with your forearm tightens up, I think you got to take care of it. I don't know what that means, but I think you got to be smart with that. Your forearm tightens up because it's trying to protect your ligament that's probably not doing a good job. The majority of time, I don't think a lot of people get forearm strains for no reason. I think there's a reason. So just, a good little piece of advice there is if your forearm's starting to tighten up and cramp, you should, get on top of that before it's an issue. Don't be a knucklehead like these guys are sometimes, and throw through it. But sorry, keep going.
No, it's okay. What was weird about my first one was when Dr. Andrews went in, my flexor muscle was great.
Yeah.
He was extremely, I guess impressed was the word, at how strong I was in my forearm. And that might have played a role in protecting me for that long. So I had the surgery about a week plus after the injury. As soon as I was out of surgeries, rehab. I rehabbed the whole 12 months. Went through all the rehab process, the throwing, the lifting, everything. I felt great the whole way. I mean, I had a few snags. Just didn't feel. I just felt cranky, which was normal. And for me, looking back, that's your body saying, "Let's take a break."
Right. Good point. When's the last time you guys ever pitched? And John, jump in here too. When you felt perfect, like. Pitching hurts, right?
Like
1998.
Yeah. Right? Like John, I mean, even as a, as someone that doesn't pitch 162 games, not that they do, but you know what I mean. Do you feel good?
No, I haven't felt good since I was 16.
Right. So,
yeah.
so common. You got to figure out what's that good soreness or that bad soreness, and that's the challenging part. But yeah.
So, like I said, I felt great through the whole rehab process. I noticed. Once I started getting off the mound and implementing curveballs and changeups right around the 11-month mark, I was getting a lot more sore.
And where was it? Tell me about it.
It was flexor muscle, I don't know, what do you call this?
Yeah.
Pronator or supinator?
The elbow.
The
We'll
elbow
call it the elbow.
area.
We don't like to
just in
label
general,
things.
Yeah, the elbow as a whole was sore.
So forearm again, though. So
Yeah.
we've seen a recurring theme.
Yeah, it's definitely I think plays a role, but I was progressing in a sense where that in the next 2 days I felt great. So the soreness after throwing off the mound didn't bother me because I knew that next day I was going to be sore. The next day I was going to be better. The next day I was going to be ready to go.
Right.
Once I got down to spring training and got into live BP. It was probably the second or third live BP I started to notice that I wasn't progressing as well. I started to, that third day when I was supposed to throw, I had to do a lot more to get ready and still didn't feel great, but what I was feeling was normal in that part of the progression. There's just a lot more stress on the elbow. It's something your elbow is not used to at that point. So I basically threw it. And my velocity was fine. My control steadily got worse, which is fine because they're not looking for command at that point. And about the fourth time, I didn't feel right. It just the whole time from the moment I got on the mound to throw my warm-ups to the moment I got off the mound, it just didn't feel right. I lost range of motion. I mean, just touching it was sore. Unfortunately, at that point, I went home for a week and a half. And was able to take time off from everything. And a few days before I came back, still sore. So for me, mentally, I wanted to get an MRI. I convinced them to let me get an MRI. They were sure it was just going to be inflammation. But the results showed different. I tore it again.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird because I felt fine and I was progressing, but I stopped progressing like I was, and that's how I knew something was different. This wasn't just normal soreness that I was going through, and in order to push through that point, I wanted to get to know what was going on. So
right. So,
again.
so good. So Tim just had his second Tommy John in 13 months, give or take. So he had a revision Tommy John. But again, a good, I think part of the problem right now that we're having with youth is that everybody thinks Tommy John is a definite. It's a no-brainer. And some people actually, some people want it because there's a lot of misconceptions out there that you actually improve and your velocity goes up. So numerous studies have come out, and I think more are in publication and coming out that show that your velocity does not go up.
Right.
In fact, it probably goes down a little bit. It'll come back probably right away, but on day one, you're probably not going to be you. Because I almost think that first game back and first month or whatever, that's part of the rehab process.
For sure.
That's the first time you've had game intensity. That's part of it. So it's not definitive, right? I mean, we used to say, and I think some of the early research showed low 90s, like give or take 90% of guys would come back successfully. What people don't realize is that was some of the early studies from Dr. Andrews on some of the real elite guys with a very good indication, let's definitely do it on this guy. He's going to get back. So he had 90% success. With the high school kids, I think we're in the 70s right now on whether or not a high school kid returns from Tommy John, like high 70%. And I would say the big leagues aren't 92% or whatever we used to say they were. They're probably closer to like 80 to 85%. So Tim was in the 15%. He's going to be in the 85 this time though. We're gonna get it this time, but it's not definite, And I wish we said, he had a fantastic rehab process. He had access to the best people and everything he could in the world, And you still 10 to 15% of the time it's not perfect. You can't control it. So it is what it is. But the kids nowadays, part of the problem is they think it's inevitable that it's going to help them. And I see some kids with just a little bit of pain that are in a rush. They want to go get surgery, right? Yeah, Chiz, you had any teammates that had Tommy John yet?
No, but Blake's brother did.
Good, right? All right, yeah. So and he injured it in high school.
And he pitched the other day. Did really well.
Yeah, so, and he's about a year out of surgery too. So he's a success story so far. That's good. So that's good. And his high school team, he hasn't seen one yet. That's great. We like that. I hope we're getting better. But I know. I mean, look, he's in here taking care of himself. So maybe
His high school coach
that's part of it.
does a good job of tracking.
Yeah.
Pitches and pitch counts and stuff like that. From what I understand.
Yeah, it's just being on top of it. So what do you guys think? So we know Tommy John injuries are going up, and it's kind of crazy if you look at the graphs. The interesting part is not only are they going up, the percentage of youth that are having them are probably tripled from where they were. It's amazing how much the youth have had. What do you guys think from a professional's perspective? The media loves to speculate with a bunch of nonsense. What do you guys think as you're the real people? Tim, why do you think?
I think for the younger kids who only play baseball, it is inevitable because they don't put down the baseball. So I think it's trending more towards the younger kids nowadays because there's travel ball, there's winter ball, there's fall ball, there's summer ball, there's spring ball. There's 100 different types of baseball leagues that kids are playing in where they
Right.
don't go and just do nothing.
Right.
Play football, play basketball. And I think for me personally, Tommy John to a point is inevitable because you're noticing it more nowadays because the younger guys are having it and they are able to come back. Before, when Tommy John started, it was guys who were 34, 35, 36 who retired.
Right.
They don't want to go through the surgery to come back at 37 years old. There's no point.
Right.
Now you're seeing it in guys who are 25, 24, and they're able to come back. But now you're seeing it in kids who are 14, and 15, and 16.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, these kids aren't even developed yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't fully develop till I was 20,
Right.
21.
I'm still developing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
exactly.
get it.
So for me, it's crazy to see a kid who's 14 years old who's still growing, having elbow issues, having shoulder issues, and to me that is directly from kids not putting the baseball down.
Right.
They want to throw 300 feet. They want to play 6 different teams. They want to play baseball year round, but that's not good.
And I love when they ask, like, hey, why do you think my arm's sore? We're like, well,
you're burnt out.
You're
by the time
overused.
If you don't have it when you're 14, you're gonna have it when you're 20 because you're burnt out.
I like when the parents argue too, about like, are you really overused? Like, oh no, he wasn't overused this summer. I'm like,
He
look,
only threw 135 pitches every other week.
he's
or every
injured.
week.
If you're injured, it's you overused yourself.
Yeah,
Just because the kid next to you did the same thing and is not injured. So he didn't overuse him. Everybody's overuse, everyone's like line that they need to stay under is different, you know. So Len, what's the youngest you've ever seen?
I'd say definitely 14.
Oh man.
Don't know if
Yeah,
13. I don't know if I saw it.
There was a
You got me.
14-year-old that had Tommy John the day I had mine.
Yeah.
Oh my, that's unbelievable. Poor kid. That's crazy. Dennis, what do you think? Why do you think the youth are getting it?
I think to a great extent the media is to blame. You know, a lot of these kids only see the success stories. You know, they see the Strasburgs, they see all those guys who came, you know, back strong off Tommy John, but they don't see the 15-20%
Good call.
in the pro level that don't make it, or that, you know, come back the same. I think it's just a common misconception. You know, there's not enough knowledge in regards to Tommy John being exposed to these guys. They just see the success stories.
Right.
You know, so with that being said, my best advice would be, you know, when you feel great, do less. You want to maintain feeling great.
Right.
You know, so
But there's so much pressure. There's another perfect game next week. They have to keep going, right? And
Eliminate the
so
draft.
wow, eliminate the draft. We're talking the baseball draft, right?
Yes.
All right, just checking.
I think young kids kind of overwhelm themselves. You know, the Lynn Invitational. You know, I got the perfect game tournament. You know, the AAU tournament next week. They try to do too much.
They want to do 6 perfect games for some reason. I'm not quite sure why, because you're just more tired. You're going to show everybody in the world you stink. You know, that you're exhausted, right? Like that doesn't work.
I mean, just do less.
Jamil, what do you think? And I like that. Let's add that too. Like, what would your recommendation be? So it sounds like your recommendation would be play more sports and don't put a ball down.
Be more well-rounded.
Right.
I mean, don't play 3 sports in high school if that's what you want to do. Don't play baseball all year round. That was always my big thing, is I had that time down. Played the extra sports. I did other things. Skateboarded when I was a kid. And by the time I was 21, I was still fresh. And I've got friends that were better than me in Babe Ruth in high school. And they're not playing baseball anymore.
Right.
Because they don't have a shoulder. They don't have an elbow anymore. And they're 23 years old and they were has-beens.
Right.
You know, so to me, it's, you know, put down the baseball and just be a kid.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean you can't work towards getting better as a baseball player.
Exactly.
You can train. I think playing soccer in the fall, it helps you be a better baseball player because it works on your agility, athleticism, and it's non-overhead sport. You know, like that type of thing. So, Jamil, what about you? Like, why do you think injuries are so high, and what would you tell yourself? What would you tell Chiz's teammates right now at school?
I mean, pretty much like going off what these guys said, taking a break off baseball for a good 2 or 3 months in the off season and just relaxing. You know, it takes a toll on your body no matter what age you are. Think about it, like Lenny said, seeing a 14-year-old kid get Tommy John, like, that's insane.
Right.
And pretty much it works all the way through you till you stop playing baseball. Your body takes a toll on it every single day. Every single day you play a game of baseball. You pitching, batting, catching, running, doing it all, throwing.
You gotta take a break.
You gotta have to take a break. That's pretty much it. You know, once your body says I can't go anymore, you just take a couple of days off and get after it. But then also again, like those guys that want to go to the perfect game, all the invitational AAU stuff, summer leagues, and it's tough, you know, because you always have those parents that pushes their kids to do that.
Right.
You know.
Right. And you can do that. You gotta. We always say it's like medicine. It's a dosage thing. You just gotta, like, if you're gonna do this showcase, you gotta not do this tournament, or so. There's gotta be a give and a take, right?
I think what Dennis said is great about the media is there's a huge miscommunication. To put that in perspective, I'm going on like week 66 of my rehab.
Yeah. Great way of saying it.
You know, they don't put that rehab process in the paper.
Right.
They don't put that on the internet and everything. They put up Strasburg's back, throwing 97.
Right.
Tommy John.
Right.
So great.
Right.
I mean,
nobody talks about how stiff Dennis is or was
exactly.
2 weeks ago and was in tears here as we got his range of motion back.
Exactly.
Or how Jamil can't feel half his hand right now. Like, nobody talks about that, but that's real. And these guys are kicking their butts, like putting the work in to get over that. But it's not all roses.
Right.
You know, that's a good point. You know, and you know the thing about refs too, I think is a good point to actually just throw this in here too, is people think that not pitching is the answer because, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, Len, scientifically, what has been the one thing that continues to come up in every study is the number one reason why we have injuries?
Yeah, it's pitching fatigue, overuse.
Overuse. Easy, right? It's not your curveball. It's none of that crap. It's it's overuse. Number one, overuse correlates to injuries in there. So what we're doing in the off season is we're getting off the mound, right? We're not pitching, but what we've done is we started doing aggressive long toss, weighted balls, other training things like that, which are great programs. But again, you got to remember it's a dosage. So scientifically, we talk about this all the time. There's some articles about this on the website. Scientifically, we know that long toss and weighted ball programs put as much or more stress on the arm as pitching off the mound. So by not pitching off the mound and doing that, that's not taking a break. That is the same thing of doing that. So I ask you guys all the time, would you throw a bullpen 7 days a week? Or even 6 days a week?
No chance.
Never, right? He's a reliever. He's contemplating it. He's like, he's like,
I get in 5 games.
right. What's my usage to date? Like you wouldn't throw a pen 6 days a week. So why are you going pen, long toss, weighted ball, pen, long toss, weighted ball? I mean, that's the dosage is wrong, right? So John, as a pitching coach, what do you do in the winter with your kids?
I would say active rest. Kind of speaking to everyone's biggest thing here is overuse. So if we're focusing on not throwing, you can still develop your body to be more efficient. You know, using your legs a little bit more, using your core. And that's the biggest thing that I see in the youth is they do want to throw more. They do want to throw weight-based baseballs. They see Steven Strasburg throwing 97 miles an hour and these big numbers that jump out at them
with a huge contract.
Right. Yeah. Like, I can get there if I do this, this, and this.
Right.
But they don't understand the risk associated with that.
Right, and they don't understand. Like, you ask all the guys. Like I remember, like Smoltz, talking to Smoltz. He was like, "Hey, what'd you do in high school?" And he's like, "I don't know, like tennis."
Exactly.
He's like, "I don't know. I think I played second." Like, I don't know. I forget the exact story, but I mean, they weren't doing what the current kids are doing.
We have a 15-year-old in here that's throwing like 81, 82, and he's pissed because he didn't hit 83.
Right.
And we're kind of like, slow down.
Right.
Like, you have no idea.
Oh, you're gonna break Lenny's record.
Right.
We don't want
You
that.
have no idea what you have. You
Yeah.
just have to slow down and kind of protect yourself and kind of build slowly.
Yeah. We're gonna get there. The pendulum's just swinging.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get back.
I think the pendulum is definitely swinging. I think we pushed it both just with surgery and pushing performance programs with these kids with baseball, and now everybody's realizing, we got to swing.
That might be too much.
It's too much.
Let's
I
find
think
that.
Parents will get more involved with their kids and seeing that more is not better, and then that'll trickle down to coaches. I think it comes down to the coaches being educated, and I think parents are the big ones to coach the coaches. 'Cause
Right.
they don't want their kids to get hurt.
Keep educating and educating the right stuff, not the myths.
Right.
Educate the right stuff.
I think the parents need to realize that your kids, nobody's going to care when he's 22 that he was the best 12-year-old in the nation.
Just had a conversation with a parent about
You know?
a 14U kid. I had a parent. He was like pushing, kid's sore, and he's pushing. I got to go to the showcase. I finally said, look. I'm like, the Red Sox, Vandy, they're not scouring through the 14U perfect game reports looking for their next kid. Like, pump the brakes, we'll get there. But we could talk for hours, and we probably will, because I know we're going to continue this conversation when we stop recording here. But heck, maybe we get together in 6 months or 12 months and see where these guys are in the rehab process. But awesome insight from the pros, right? From the pros, the guys that have been through it, that are going through it. Amazing insight on this sort of thing. So spread the word, share this around with some local coaches, some youth out there, because, again, information is what they need. They need the right knowledge. So thanks, guys, and we'll see you guys on another episode in the future.